Welcome to All Pro Football Data. My name is Jim Coburn, and today's episode talking about Xavier Legette, wide receiver out of South Carolina, based on his production data. So we're going to take a look at everything to do with him based on his production and adjusted production, other sort of stuff like that. But before we get into that, one interesting little fact about Legette: he played quarterback as a senior in high school before ultimately transitioning over to the wide receiver position. So interesting interesting little tad bit about him. Going to offensive market share scores. If you're new to the work that I do, this is how I get those scores. Essentially, I take market share scores, I percentile score them against their positional peers to get those numbers. And I also do it against 3,710 wide receivers since the 1969 NFL draft class, giving me a great amount of context to the data in terms of their overall production. And when you take a look at Legette based on this, he had an 80 percentile receiving market share production score, 90 percentile in terms of his total offensive market share production score, and a 68 percentile in terms of his touchdown market share production score. And those numbers are okay. They pretty much hit all the Pro Bowl averages that you're kind of looking to hit, but except for the touchdown averages in that particular metric. Moving to his efficiency scores. Efficiency takes a look at things like yards per touch or yards per reception when it comes to wide receivers. And it also takes a look at touchdown percentage, which is the number of touches divided by the team or total touchdowns. So how often they end up in the end zone when the ball's in their hands. And when you look at the efficiency scores for Legette, he doesn't hit the numbers you're looking for in terms of touchdown percentage, but does hit the numbers you're trying to hit in terms of yards per reception. So those are the biggest issues with him, is that despite him being this raw, big, physical specimen, he didn't end up in the end zone that much. And the more times you gave him the football, the less likely you were going to end up in the end zone, because he only had about a 30% compared to other, not really 30%, but his score was in the 30 percentile in terms of getting in the end zone. So that's kind of the biggest issue with him based on his efficiency scores. Going to adjusted production. Adjusted production takes into account things like age of a prospect, the team that they played on, the competition they faced. That's what adjusted production scores look at. And essentially, it's a context score. How productive were they for their age? How productive were they for the level of competition that they faced? And how productive were they for the team that they were on? Were they on a strong team? Were they on a weak team? Those are numbers you kind of want to look at here, and it kind of gives you context for that production. When you look at Xavier, his context production was not really that great. His age overall is not that great with a 28 percentile age score. His MSA rating was in the 60 percentile, and his pass category was in the 70 percentile. Again, pass takes into account efficiency scores, MSA doesn't. And when you look at the numbers here, he doesn't quite hit the Pro Bowl averages or All Pro averages at the position based on his adjusted production scores, which is concerning, again, if you consider him to be a Pro Bowl wide receiver when he doesn't quite hit the numbers that you're looking for at that position. At that position. These are some of the pro comparisons for him. So based on his overall production data, his MSA rating, pass rating, all that kind of stuff, this is kind of the wide receivers that tested similar to him. And it's not really that strong of a list. Cedric Wilson, Keelan Doss, Jeremy Gallon, Charles Lee, Andre Riley, Andre Allison. These are the types of wide receivers that Xavier tested most similar to based on his production profile. Getting to his overall outlook, though, Xavier Legette profiles as a backup to starter long-term based on his data profile. The biggest weakness for him is his age and overall production traits. Legette might be a size and speed specimen, but he did not translate those traits into elite production, especially touchdown production. So it's very concerning when you have a wide receiver that everybody is touting in terms of his size and his physicality and stuff like that, and then he doesn't end up in the end zone that much. That's a concern, because you just have a big guy who plays small. And that's kind of the biggest concern that I would have in terms of, before I even watch the film, is I would want to answer that question. Is he a big guy that plays small? Because based on his touchdown production, he's basically producing like a slot receiver, like an undersized slot receiver. And he's not undersized. We all know that. So those are kind of the biggest concerns of Legette is from that perspective. Is he is he really getting in the end zone that much? A guy his size should be getting in the end zone a lot more, and they never really used him like that. So those are the big concerns with him, based on his overall production profile. Again, he profiles as a backup to a long-term starter, as sort of the upper echelon kind of thing for him. But anyways, with all that stuff out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching my channel. My name is Jim Coburn. You can also check out my Twitter page at Geometrics. Also, check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/jcoburn, to see these videos early. And I thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.